Some VN dev was tragically struck and killed last Saturday. They were killed after getting hit by a car. They were bending over to pick a nickel off the ground when their big ruckus had distracted the driver who went flying into them, killing them on impact. Some VN dev's corpse wasn't found, but we did find a note on their body that stated that if they were ever struck and killed, we were to upload this video. Some VN dev also said that they would give me their entire life's allowance, which was $3. The rest of this video goes out in respect to them. I hope you enjoy. Hello there, my gooners and goonettes. Welcome back to another video. Or I suppose a video in a video, or a video in a video in a video, or a video in a video in a video in a video, or a video in a video in a video in a video in a wait, sorry, I was getting a little sidetracked. Today we're covering Milk Inside a Bag of Milk. Milk Inside a Bag of Milk is a short, surrealist visual novel that follows a girl named Milk-chan as she struggles with her mind during the basic task of retrieving milk. Milk Inside a Bag of Milk was developed by Nikita Kryukov and published by Missing Com. Nikita Kryukov is a Russian game developer who composed, drew, and coded for Milk Inside a Bag of Milk. He actually has a lot of music on YouTube from his games and some chilling stuff. I generally recommend checking it out for some of my more adventurous gooners. He's made other visual novels like Megalith and Daiku no Medium. He's been making games for a while, with people praising his storytelling ability and music, and he's garnered himself quite a cult fandom after a while. And I'm actually doing something kind of unique for this video where I'm going to go into his history. Yeah, I did research. Ew! Nikita Kryukov was born on the 14th of February 1997 in Krasnodar, Russia. Based on his own accounts, he had always had a fascination with music at a young age, enrolling in a music school for 9 years and moving on to university for music for another 5. At some point along his music learning journey, likely sometime in his teens, he discovered the fascination for visual novels. Particularly, he was fascinated by the works of Gen Urobuchi, who's known for being the director of Fate's Day Night, but the work Nikita latched onto first was The Phantom Inferno. He was fascinated by the medium of visual novels and how a unique medium could be used to tell stories. What would stick with him would be the moral ambiguity of the characters in the work, the main characters being assassins, leading to them having a unique look into the diseased psyche, which is something that deeply fascinated Nikita. The work sparked a fascination for storytelling and game creation within him. While Phantom Inferno inspired Nikita to create visual novels, his biggest influence and in the creation of Milk Inside a Bag of Milk would be a different game. This game completely changed how he saw storytelling and became his defining style for how stories would be told by him. His biggest influence was a little known game called Yume Nikki. For like the 2 people in the audience who don't somehow know what Yume Nikki is a surrealist game released in 2004. It became massively popular and a cult classic due to how strange yet deep its storytelling was. I'm not going into too much detail because this is a game that genuinely I could spend even longer than I had on my Fear and Hunger video. Like, this game is 20 years old and was data mined to pieces, but there's still mysteries within the game's lore that people have yet to discover, and more versions of the game, which are unreleased content that people are still trying to find so they get the full story. But what's really important to take away from it is just how it tells its story. The game is very indirect with how it tells its storytelling, being very pervasive with how its story is told, but giving a lot of hints to what the reality of what the story is. Now, I'm gonna be in truth, I would need to do my own insane amount of research on this game to be able to figure out how every little piece of this impacted Milk Inside of a Bag of Milk. But as I got from a general broad stroke take, a lot of what came from this game to a Milk Inside of a Bag of Milk was just the pervasive storytelling and how surrealist everything is. Nikita Kryukov is a man who was deeply influenced by Japanese culture to the point where he spent 6 months learning the language before moving to Japan in March of 2023, which is to say he's a man devoted and loving of visual novels and everything Japanese culture related to them, which is important to consider when covering Milk Inside of a Bag of Milk, as he knows how to play with the medium of visual novels and will do so to enhance his storytelling. So I guess the history section went on for a bit there, huh? Well, don't worry, because this feels like an ice cream bar. That was just 1 part stick, and now it's time for the 30 parts of ice cream. Before I get into the dark crevices of this game though, I should warn that there's heavy themes of mental health, death, gore, and generally disturbing topics. I'm just giving this warning for the people who would care, but I also highly recommend that if this game has interested you in any way, that you buy the game on Steam or itch right now and play it through. This game is generally something just you have to experience by yourself for the first time, and shouldn't be spoiled for you. And it's really not that long of all, so it's not a big time commitment. And it's only $1.50 on Steam. So really, if you're really strapped for cash, there's nothing stopping you from buying the game and returning it. But I think that's a better option than just having me spoil and break it down for you right now. Okay, so is everyone gone who wanted to be gone? Good, because now it's time for us to enter the world of milk inside a bag of milk. Milk Inside a Bag of Milk is all the dialogue in the game split into two main speakers. We act as the reader, or the speaker bubbles and choices we choose that allow us to converse with the MC, Milk-chan. Milk-chan is the main character, and she is a curious case, but we'll get to see a lot of this later. The main goal of the game is given to us as a command as soon as we open up the game. Help me buy milk. After ending our main character, we get introduced to Milk-chan, who has forgotten how you're supposed to enter a store. And then we get to make our first choice. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to be choosing the positive options first, and we'll be going over the negative options later. We get to see a lot of the quirks of Milk-chan. She constantly rehearsed what she's going to say as she enters the mini-mart for a bag of milk and fails 19 times.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit that I have ever heard.
As well, she makes it clear that we, the reader, are part of this vision novel she has created. The vision novel frame being used here is a method for how she focuses her thoughts. She also puts great importance on being precise to freaking out over the even amount of steps she takes on dirt and pavement. Put a pin in these fixations, they'll be important later. We eventually make it to the mini-mart, and when she asks the stranger for help with finding the milk, the junior has a monstrous appearance, however, and when spoken to, replies only with an O. Milk-chan rationalizes it as him just trying to scare her using the letter O, and she shows us why she's scared of the letter O when we cut to... Yeah, that was... freaky. Like me. Suddenly the man scurries off with no context, freeing us and allowing us to make our way to the milk, where Milk-chan is confused about where he paid for milk. At the counter, the clerk is also a strange monster and speaks in short, simple sentences. Seemingly literally no one is normal in this place. Milk-chan forgets and is forced to remember the concept of money and capitalism and then leaves the store with milk in hand. As they're leaving the store, Milk-chan begins to show a dramatic drop in mental state. She begins rambling about how she's an ice cream bar, mostly water and partly milk, how she isn't any good, how she can only be melted and drunk. Her feet fail to traverse the ground, the pavement under constantly shifting, and the milk bag in her hand reminding her of the traumatic time recovering physical therapy. She tries to force her mind to focus by closing her eyes, but stumbles into the road, barely missing getting flattened by a truck she mistakes for a bear. As the walk goes on, Milk-chan shows significant signs of her mental state wearing thin. She brings up her depression and how she feels rain clouds hover over her when she cries. We're being up with this is real, and she says she's taking pills that should stop her from getting lost in her mind like that. Milk-chan decides she's had enough of being ambiguous and sits down on the bench to talk to us. She makes it clear she doesn't want to talk to us about her past, but she has no choice but to. She talks about how she recognizes how she acts is odd, how her vision is stained red, and that she knows people around her look like monsters or just figments of her imagination. She even lets us in on her past. She only has one memory from when she was younger. She remembers seeing her dad, his gore and viscera staining the ground outside her apartments. She mentions how some kind of family trouble had caused him to go out the window of their apartment to his death. This was her last memory before she had no more memories. She thanks us for aiding her in getting to the store without messing up, going on a rant before. After interrupting her, she goes home. Hanging over the railing, she comments how she no longer fears the edge. Her medication wears off, allowing her to enjoy the breeze and a silence in her mind before she heads inside of her apartment. Inside, we meet Mother, a grotesque masked beast that Milk-chan looks at in disgust. After confirming the acquisition of milk, Milk-chan goes to bed, ending the game. But if that's the normal ending, what happens if you choose the bad decisions? The bad dialogue options are when you belittle and demean Milk-chan. Choosing the bad dialogue options gives alternate dialogues to reveal more about her. We talk to the clerk and saying either they hate you or you're pathetic. It gives insight into Milk-chan's life. We get to see that she has a fear of being thrown out the window by her mother, and she thinks her mom thinks she's nothing but a waste of space, barely even dust. After making 3 bad decisions, however, you get the unique ending. So, what the did any of that mean? That's what I first thought when I first beat the game, and what I gave you was a more streamlined version of the game's actual story. the game purposely doesn't make it clear what anything is and doesn't give any solid reasoning behind much of Milk-chan's dialogue. So where do we even begin with breaking down this beast? Let's enter the analysis. Let's start with the analysis of Milk-chan, given that we spend the entire game with her and she is literally most of the dialogue. Milk-chan clearly exhibits multiple conditions like autism and depression throughout the game. Throughout the game, she hyperfixates on how she has to do things precisely and is obsessed with the concept of pyramidal verbal constructions, which is to say, things and other things using inside of words. Or, like in the game's title, milk inside a bag of milk. She also fails in her, albeit few, social interactions in the game, often forgetting what she's supposed to be doing or saying. Her depression is a bit more obvious given how we, as the player character, act as her depression. This isn't immediately clear, but it's more obvious to make bad decisions in the game that belittle her and make her feel worse, and she rejects us in her mind. I guess the more precise way to say it is that we play as the version of the depression she has when she's taking her medication. The name he gives at the beginning of the game is the type of pill she's taking. She also mentions how her medication is failing her when we try to dig into her past. And in the bad ending, she talks about us by name and says how we aren't working for her and how we aren't helping her get her milk. Okay, so I suppose my Milk-chan is a questionable narrator at times, but does that mean what she says in the game has any deeper meaning other than just being delusion? To answer my own rhetorical question, yes. While a lot of what she says in the game sounds nonsensical, there's a lot we could break down. For something to learn about her, we have to acknowledge that what we think is an extension of what she is thinking. So, as already explained, we're her depression, so what we think is what she thinks. For the most part, I'm going to break down what her story is, but if you play the game yourself, just like the other tidbits you can break down for yourself, that explain a bit more about her character. So put your tinfoil hats on, it's time for a legally distinct theory. We know her earliest memory is one she has of her dad going out of her window falling to his death, but shortly after there's a massive gap in her memory. This memory actually ties into two other moments in the game. The scene where she represents her fear of O, and when she's outside her apartment on the balcony. The view from her balcony is one big circular drop, very reminiscent of the O nightmare she has. We also know that at some point, Milk-chan had to suffer from some type of severe physical injury and had to recover with physical therapy. Putting two and two together, we can figure out she likely also went out the apartment window that day. She likely landed on the corpse of her father, leading to the extent of damage to him as she describes. Her being developed in his blood also likely led to her developing her obsession with things being in other things. Or, in other words, pyramidal verbal constructs. Her landing on him was also likely what caused her to survive, while he didn't, and the resulting trauma being the cause of her depression. It wouldn't be surprising if she blamed herself for her father's death, given the fact that she had caused him to friggin' explode. But what caused this incident in the first place? All we really get is that it was some kind of family dispute. And Milk-chan expresses a fear of being thrown out the window by her mother and how she can't feel getting the milk for her, and being seen as useless. This doesn't leave much for interpretation, but it makes it pretty clear that her mother somehow, for some reason, threw both Milk-chan and her father out the window. This idea is strengthened with how Milk-chan looks at her mother. It's the same way she looks at us when she rejects us for being unhelpful and making her feel worse. It's a look of utter contempt. For what she did in the first place, though, it's not clear. We never really get a motivation for the mother. This game keeps many things unclear on purpose, leave it up for interpretation, but this is the best interpretation I can make of the game's story. Also, I'm aware there's a direct sequel to this game, but I purposely didn't learn anything about it because I wanted to make this video in a vacuum since Nikita himself stated that he made the game without the intention of a sequel, but did so because of the support his creation got. So it's very likely that I got something wrong about the lore that gets contradicted in the sequel, but I'm generally proud of the analysis I made with just the first game as a source. It's a pretty strong narrative form, I think. It's a strong story of a family tragedy and a troubled recovery. But hey, that's just a theory. A completely distinct theory. Thanks for watching. Just kidding, a bit more. I guess for my final thoughts on the game, I think it's a masterpiece in storytelling. The inspiration from Human Nikki is blatant in how the story itself is told in such a loose and open-ended format that allows the reader to draw their own conclusions. Visuals in the game aren't going to win any awards, but they're definitely striking and unique. They give us a look into Milk-chan's distorted reality, and at times scenes like the mother and O scene are genuinely startling and disturbing. Nikita's love for music is also definitely a big contributor to the game's vibe. His music perfectly sets the vibe for the game and really reminds me of the NES era music, and I've been using it in the background for this entire video, and it's genuinely kind of a bop, bro. I plan on someday making a video on the sequel. Maybe I'll make a video soon if this one does well. You know, it would help me work faster on that in the Fear and Hunger video if you know, like and subscribe. Well, that was a weird cough. Also, if you guys have thoughts on the game's narrative, please do share in the comments. I'd love to hear. But honestly, that's all I really have to say about the game. So with that, I hope everyone has a good day. This is SomeVN Dev, signing out.